things that we're going to learn today are that microphone stands are a barrier between the audience and the performer, so I'm going to come out and be naked in front of all of you. I've been asked to talk a little bit about the showmanship category, and I know that you're probably all wondering why I was at the White House this week. I do work full-time also. Barbershopping, believe it or not, is my hobby. But I am an associate director of the National Federation of Parents for Drug-Free Youth, and I'm the national director of the Red Ribbon Campaign, which is, I guess some of you have Red Ribbon in your states. I don't think it's in Canada yet, but in the States we have Red Ribbon. It's a week set aside to call attention to the drug problems among our youth, and I'm the national director. So we were at the Rose Garden, and President Bush was officially declaring October 19th through the 27th as National Red Ribbon Week in America, so that's why I was there. And the press corps was there, and it's amazing how many skills we learn in Sweet Adelines that are translated into skills that we can use on our jobs. And this was a good example of it, because you need a certain amount of poise so that your ankles get weak, and he's just a gracious, wonderful person, especially to us. He's our honorary chairman, he and Mrs. Bush. And then to face the press corps was a very frightening thing, because they fire questions at you very quickly, and you have to be able to answer them on your feet. And I don't think that I would be able to do those kinds of things had I not had some training in presentation skills that we learned here in Sweet Adelines. And so don't ever take any of these classes for granted, because they're very easily translated into the things that we can do that really make money, so that we can stay involved in our hobby. But I started my barbershopping career when I was 21. My mother was a Sweet Adeline. She began when I was 5. And my dad was a member of SPEDSQSA. So I was raised in a very barbershop family. My parents were very active in the organization. My mother was a regional champion, a baritone, in 1957. And so her quartet traveled a lot, and I used to watch my dad and mom perform as a kid, and always thought that that would be really a wonderful thing to do. I mean, when you're little, you want to do that for a living. You want to be a star when you grow up. And I never really realized that I would, in a sense, grow up and be a star. I joined the Tetrachords, and we won international in 1978. And then I spent some time in and out of chapter quartets. The Tetrachords was a chapter quartet. And then got involved with Ambiance. Ambiance met as a regional group. We were very far apart. Shelley is 6 hours from St. Louis in Chicago. And so we kept meeting at these regional meetings, and she and Liz were involved in another quartet called Audio Express that used to be involved in that top 10 international placement, and we always would be sort of the last dogs to die at night, and we all would shed it because we all had pretty good ears, and so we'd sit around and sing until morning. And we always said, if we ever got an opportunity to sing together, we'd love to. And then joined with Diane and formed the Tetrachords in 1985. So the rest is sort of history. It's a very unique group in that we are 4 businesswomen who happen to blend very well together and all like to perform. And that has made it a very unique experience, because unlike the Tetrachords, who were great friends and great buddies, and were in the same chorus and did local singing dates and things like that, Ambiance evolved as more a product-based group. We began to be very aware of our image, and created an image, and worked to actually put an act together. And we still do that. When we need a new piece of music, we don't just go out and get any piece of music. We make sure that it will fit into what we do. And I think that's kind of important. 2 years ago, we were featured on an NPR special. I don't know if any of you heard it, Morning Edition, which is National Public Radio in America. And it generated an enormous response. They featured the Rhapsody in an interview with David and I, and we got flooded with phone calls and letters from non-barbershoppers. And it was a very frightening thing because we realized that there's a market out there for the kind of music that we produce. And we decided that in order to make the most of what we might have down the road, we formed a corporation, a legal corporation, and we formed Ambiance Productions Incorporated. Then our first album became on that label, and our second album was on that label. And we all of a sudden realized that we were in the business. And we entered the Grammy Awards. We joined the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. We have since joined the Contemporary A Cappella Association. There are other organizations out there like us. And it's very interesting to note that we are held in very high respect for the kind of music that we do produce among those musicians who also follow a cappella music. And just recently, we have begun to do shows that are not barbershop shows. And those are very interesting because barbershoppers really do know about, they're much more intelligent listeners. The lay audience, you have to dazzle. The barbershop audience sits back and takes it all in, and appreciates it for what it is. So we've had to, when you're straddling that line between professional and amateur, you start getting a whole different aspect of things. And some of the techniques that we have learned, I'm going to try to teach today as it relates to the presentation part of barbershop. We have a category in our organization called Showmanship. And it's a very unique category in that it starts with the music. All of our categories overlap a great deal. And however, if the local product isn't there, no amount of dazzle is going to make a difference. And so our showmanship category, I'm going to need a Bama light up here to write. Is there someone who can write legibly? I don't spell very well, and I don't write very clear, so I'm going to have somebody else go up here and print. Your best printing. Yes.
Got a teacher do it.
That's right. This is, in case you have never seen it before, the judging category description booklet. One actually exists, and everyone has access to this. If you're going to international, the competition's in a couple, next week. It's next week, isn't it? Oh, God. Then you can get this at the Harmony Bazaar, and directors get sent this anyway. The green sheets are the showmanship sheets, and we're going to put performance right up at the very top. The performance area of showmanship, I hope we got a pen that works good. Taken right from the book is visual communication of a musical product. You don't have to write all that, but we're gonna, and it's worth 0 to 70 points per song. So that's 70% of your score is that performance. That's that part of the score that makes the audience feel comfortable. And it's that charisma that you have on stage. I know that most of you have been in a situation where you've been in the audience and there's a quartet performing and they're doing a lot of stuff right. They're ringing chords, they've got all their attacks and releases in place, everything sounds really good, but there's just something lacking, and you begin to look at your program and you begin to see who's next in the contest, or look at your watch, or start thinking about what you're going to do afterwards. The performer is losing you, but everything is okay. That's that little magic that happens that maybe we can put a name to, and that is all involved in the performance part of it. Vocal skills is number one. Without vocal skills, no amount of fancy dancing is going to make a difference. But the next part is very interesting. And I want, you can write vocal skills, that would be good. Then I want you to write poise and command. Now this is a kind of, we learn a lot of, yes, P-O-I-S-E, I have it right here in the book. You wanna- and C-O-M period is good. It's a very interesting, and also, by the way, at any time today, if you have a question, just call it out or raise your hand, because I would like to, attack questions. Sure.
Can we move this up on that podium level
Oh,
so everybody can see it?
Of course.
Holler when you want to do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right, they don't have that. Yeah, you can have that. Okay. Maybe I'll something-
Now, can everybody see it?
Can you write a little bigger for somebody that's over 50?
Yeah, we can turn the page.
It's for our Bible.
We get a lot of classes on choreography. And,
Good.
but we don't get too many classes on the poise and the command part of it. Next, oh, there we go, hey. Because I think this is an important part. And sometimes it makes the difference. Now, you don't have to write this. What is your name? Kathy. Kathy, you don't have to write this, but under that poise and command part is the entrance and the exit and the break, all those little things that happen in between the non-singing part, the pitch pipe technique, and there's this little nebulous thing that says overall, which is everything else. Next is physical expression. But you didn't know all this stuff. I bet you thought it was just all dancing. Physical expression. Now these two, poise and command and physical expression, are the body language things, the whole body things. And we're gonna talk in great detail about those things, because I think in a lot of cases this is that little ingredient that's lacking. And there are ways to be taught how to do these things. Next is unity. That's how much of a unit you are. The look. If there's one person that is upstaging the rest of the group, and if it becomes a point of distraction. And we're not just speaking of quartets, we're speaking of choruses too, in unity. Director to chorus, rapport, and things like that. Then there's choreography, which is your character development and your planned movement. And again, this is the performance part. So this is actually how it comes off. Audience rapport. The kind of communication that happens between audience and performer. Then energy, the stuff that comes from within. Directors are always yelling for more energy. Energize that phrase. Energize that move. And then the last one in the performance part is, if you are a chorus, the director gets evaluated. How she moves, how he or she works closely with the chorus, and just exactly what kind of a judge can pretty much tell the kind of rapport that the chorus has with its director by the look, by the way they work together and move together. Okay, now we need another sheet, or you can just flip that over. We'll come back to this one, so if you haven't written it all down, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. But we'll get all the plans out here, and then we'll talk about each one. Next is the preparation part. Now, this used to be on the top, and performance used to be on the bottom, because obviously you have to prepare before you can present. But in the latest revision of the category, the judging category description, the judging specialists, and the committee that was working on this showmanship category felt that with preparation being first, too many people were spending too much time on the preparation and not enough on the presentation. So they flipped it, since it's only worth 30% or 30 points of every score per song. It starts with the visual plan, just the overall. The judge can tell by the way things go whether or not these things were talked about, whether you know the storyline, whether a character has been discussed, whether the choreography has been taught. They're pretty good at spotting whether or not there's an involvement happening just by deciding whether or not these things were planned in advance. Next, the entrance, exit, and break. So often we take these things for granted, and at the very end we'll say, well, how are we going to get on and off, or what kind of a bow are we going to have? These things are important because you'll note that entrance, exit, and break happens in both the performance and in the preparation. Next is your costume. That gets an item all by itself. And then makeup and grooming. All part of your preparation. Choreography is next. Which is also in both categories, in the presentation and in the preparation. And then the last one is creativity. Now, there's only 30% for all of these things. And yet, many of us spend hours on costume, hours on makeup, when in fact, it's really those little nebulous things, the audience rapport, the poise and command, the vocal skills that are that 70%. And so just from looking at the way things are actually set up, we can see that maybe, just maybe, we've got our priorities a little out of whack sometimes. Costuming, for example, only has to be clean, pressed, fit, and go with your music. You can wear a sack if it's clean, pressed, you know. And oftentimes, we do see a winning chorus or a winning quartet, and you go, gosh, that was the ugliest thing I ever saw. But it was clean, and it was pressed, and it went with the music. You know, if you're singing a song, if you're singing, for example, Pal in My Cradle Days and Back in Dad's Mother's Day, you might want to dress for the era. But if you dress old-fashioned and sing more contemporary songs, Take You to That Land of Jazz, or a ballad like Tired of Me, it may not work as well. It may have worked better in a generic costume or a more contemporary costume. It also needs to fit the performer. If we've got a quartet made up of very young women and they're singing I Wish All My Children Were Babies Again, which does happen because it's a great song and somebody won with it, then it may not be a convincing performance. So I think that when you're deciding on your music, you have to sort of understand who you are and where you're coming from, and if you are going to be able to present that kind of music in a convincing way. So, okay, visual plan, there has to be one, and most of the time there is. Very few people, and we're going to speak from purely a competitive situation right now rather than just a performance or a show situation. Most all of us have a visual plan. I'm sorry, I move around a lot, as you'll know. You know, I'm going to keep this guy real busy because he's following me, you know. The visual plan has to be obvious. The entrance, exit, and break has to be planned. There are things that need to take place. That's where you can set it up. And we're going to talk about that right now. Do I have any waitresses in the room? Do I have anyone who's a waitress? Oh, good. I love it when we've got one. Did you know that waitresses are non-persons? Yes. And so are janitors and children. In other words, people who can stare at you and watch you and do for you, but you don't have to notice them, are non-persons. Now, when you're, I can't reach all the way there, or I would, but when you are serving people, very often they will just continue their own conversation at the table. You work around them, and you pour the water, and you serve the food, and you don't expect too much response.
Depends on, they might be a waitress too. They give all kinds of help.
Yes, yes. She says if they're a waitress, they give you all kinds of help. That's right. But overall, your role is not to interrupt, and you realize that, and it doesn't make you feel bad. But what happens when you come in and you say, hello, my name is Max, and I'm going to be your waitress today. What would happen if they said, hi, Max, my name is Sandy, and this is Judy, and this is Artie, and this is Therese. Therese? What would happen here? All of a sudden,
You feel more respected, I think, and tend to do a much better job, I think, for them. You just feel like you're part of that group.
that's right. You would do a much better job. You feel like you're part of what's going on. What has happened is the persons at the table have made a person out of the non-person. And it can only happen that way. It can't happen the other way. You can't force the issue. You can't initiate the situation, the conversation, and have it come off correctly. In the correct order of things, we as humans need to, as persons, need to make the non-person a person. We give that permission. Yes, go ahead, question.
Hi, my name is Shirley. Do you all have your quizzes?
Okay, good. Yeah, we're going to need to fill those out before the end of the day, because I want to know what everybody is, right, brain or left brain. The non-person role is real interesting. If you're a janitor, for example, and you're working late at night, you as the person working late at night, the janitor comes in and empties your trash can, and you sort of move out of the way, or they clean up around you, they dust around you. If they start to talk to you, how do you feel? Interrupted? Anybody else? Just a little disturbed, a little offended, perhaps? You know, like, I'm trying to get out of here, I don't want to really be working late, and I don't need to talk to you right now. You know, it's the non-person role needs to be kept like that unless you want the situation to change. Now, if you start a conversation with your custodian, then, or your maid, things will change. The roles will change, and you will make a person out of that. Now, why am I getting to all of this? Because an audience plays a very definite non-person role. An audience is a non-person. It comes in and it sits in the dark. It has a very defined method of response. When the performer comes on, the audience reacts. It applauds. It always applauds. Even before the performer has begun, they are showing appreciation because that's the non-person response that an audience has. Then, throughout the course of the performance, the role may change, but it might not. And even if it doesn't change, the audience will continue to clap after each song. They will clap at the end, no matter what the performance was like, because the audience is a non-person. Now, what happens if the performer chooses to make persons out of that audience?
Response would be better.
You bet. And there's some ways that we can do that. For example, when a quartet comes on stage, this is the way it usually happens. Okay, normal? Normal? All right, I'll try to strip this time. All right, what if it comes on like this? What have I done? From the beginning. 4 eye contacts. Ambiance makes 4 eye contacts on its way out. Whoa, can't do it with the microphone too. We look, hold. Look, hold. Look, hold. Look, hold. Now we can't always see everybody because the light's bright. Usually we can see the first couple of rows. So we will actually go for the eye contact. But if we can't, we look in the direction and hold. And that will assimilate or will give the illusion, and we are in the illusion business, we will give the illusion that audience rapport is beginning to be set up. The first thing that you can do to build audience control, to make persons out of the audience is in this entrance. And yet we take it so much for granted. And that bow in between, and that exit when we're going off stage, and we can appreciate it, and we can still make that eye contact on the way out. The audience can feel the difference. You as an audience back in the back, I wasn't looking at you, but you somehow felt included in the action because the audience is one big unit, one big body of non-persons that I chose to make persons out of. So don't ever take that entrance and exit for granted. Now choruses can do this too. And it's pretty neat. In my chorus, are any of you going to San Antonio? I'm experimenting. I'm going to do an experiment. I told the chorus, I don't know what's going to happen to this. I don't know. I've never seen it before. But we're going to try something different. Have you ever watched choruses come in at an international? There's no curtain. There's nothing at all between the audience and the performer from the very beginning. So the choruses come on, and the front row usually comes on first. So the front row comes on, and they do their pose, the pose. We've seen it, we've all seen it. Okay, the pose. And they stand there and smile like that for like hours while these huge big choruses, I have a little chorus, relatively small when you think of what's going to be out there. I have 72, I'll have 72 on stage. So I'm kind of a medium chorus. But honestly, girls, there's 140 voice choruses that we're competing with. I told my chorus, you're big in our region, but there's twice as many in, Gem City and San Diego. Anyway, we're not going to strike a pose. We're going to enter from the back row first. And we're going to go up the center, and we're going to split, and we're going to go to the back. And the back row is going to smile, and they're going to wave. And if somebody catches their eye, they're going to wink. They're not going to talk. I tell them they can't talk. But they're going to begin to set up audience rapport from the very moment. Now, we're not being judged yet, so I said, it's not going to take away from your score, but we're just going to experiment and see what the audience reaction, what happens. We have a few plants out in the audience, our regional people who are going to yell and clap and scream and stuff like that, And so we're going to react to that. We're going to react to that. And so then the third row is going to come on, and the second, fifth, fourth, third, second. Then the front row is going to come on. Now the front row is going to come on, and they're going to sweep across the front so that they make some eye contact on the way out. And then they're going to slide into their places. I'll come out last, and I'm going to look at every judge. And the queens will be over there, and I'll probably wave or, give them a So we're going to play with the audience a little bit before we even get introduced. And we're going to see if it works, see what happens. If we can begin, so many times in a competitive situation, the chorus never gets the opportunity to develop that personalization, that thing that happens between audience and performer. But that entrance gives us an opportunity to do that. Isn't that going to be kind of interesting? I don't know if it's going to work. The chorus goes, she's really going to do this? Can't we just come on and have the front row stand there and we'll just all slide into our places? No. We're going to break them over. We're going to see what happens. We're going to experiment a little bit. But you need to begin to realize that non-person thing, those little verbal things, non-verbal things that you can do that sets up the rapport and that gets things going between audience and performer happens in the very first few seconds that you walk out on stage. You make judgments immediately, as soon as you see a person. And as a non-person, you're making judgments. Max, when somebody comes in and sits down at your table, you make kind of a judgment about that person from the very beginning.
In a way, it depends upon how I greet that person in the first place.
Isn't that interesting? She says it depends upon how you greet that person in the first place. That's good. Can I use that in my next class? It's so important, and yet we've never been taught these things. And I think it all began when people started asking ambiance, why you're so different. What's so different about ambiance? I mean, we don't sing any better than anybody else. We really don't. No. We are the most fun. Now, those of you who are going to be at International, I want you to pay attention to the vocals. Don't watch us too much, because we make great charisma happen on stage. We know that. We interact, we like to play, we tease, we flirt with the audience a lot. Those are all part of the things, part of the illusion that we create in making persons out of non-persons. But if you really listen closely to our music, we're not usually out of tune. We lock. We have a really good natural blend that you can give us. But we hardly ever end a phrase together. And most of the time we don't start at the same time. Our attacks and releases are very sloppy. Things that happen in between are kind of sloppy sometimes. And yet the audience is very forgiving, because we have already set up an audience rapport from the beginning. Ambiance has a lot of charisma on stage because we do a lot of these things naturally. And until people started asking us what we do that's so different, we didn't really know. When we started getting videotapes of our performance and watching it, because we're doing more and more music schools like this, and people are saying, well, we want to look like Ambiance. Well, we don't have the best bodies. We're all odd sizes. We aren't necessarily beautiful women. All of us are over 40, well, except for Shelley, we're all over 40. We don't have too much going for us, Except that we know how to make great charisma happen. We like people. We're people. We like to get down in there and mix with the people. And we're not afraid of people. And so we're not afraid to make persons out of non-persons. And sometimes those barriers are created. Barriers are created with various things. I told you earlier, the microphone is a great barrier. It's very safe back here when there's a barrier. If any of you have ever performed with without a microphone, you feel kind of like there's nothing hiding. And it's just a skinny little pole. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is sometimes. You feel very vulnerable out there when you're all by yourself. And there are other things that create barriers. In men, mustaches and beards create barriers. In women, glasses create barriers. It's subtle, but it does happen. And that's why, if you have the opportunity to perform without your glasses, if you have contacts or you can make it through without getting sick. Some people get dizzy when they don't have them on, and so it's not, it wouldn't do your performance any good, and vocal skills is important, as you know. And seeing the director is kind of nice. I know it makes the director feel good. But that does create a barrier, and it's something that you need to be aware of. In a chorus situation, I'm sort of rambling, but I'm thinking of things. I'm a right-brain person, and those of you who are right-brain people will be right with me. The left-brain people are going, what is she doing? Do you have the, oh, yeah, there we go, Kathy. Just don't go away now, because I'm going to lose you. An interesting thing happens from the audience's standpoint, and the only reason I'm bringing this up now is because I'll probably forget later. If you're in a chorus, all right, this is your chorus, and your director is right here. If you're the audience and you're looking at the chorus, an audience looks like this. First they look at the director, then they fan out. So it's kind of an hourglass thing. You look at the director. You will hold your gaze on the director by the amount of point of focus that there is. If the director has a thing here, you might not take your eyes off of the director for the entire performance. Costume chairman, keep that in mind. It all depends on where you want your point of focus to be. My chorus would never put anything right there on me. My chorus has a thing right up here. I have a little frou-frou, my sequins and stuff are high. There's a crack right there. Okay. Now, if the director turns around to the audience, then the audience gets permission, as non-persons and as a good audience, to look everywhere. So as soon as the director turns around and becomes a performer, then very often you'll scan your eyes. Now, if the director's point of focus is not on her, but if the point of focus is not the director, but is in fact the sparkle on the chorus, then the audience will go there much faster. So depending on how much of a visual distraction you want in your director, you might consider that. And it's subtle. These are just all psychological things, just subtle things. I don't know why I went into that, but I thought it was important at the time. So, okay. Oh, we want to get back to, let's see. No, let's keep it here for a minute. Let's talk about makeup for a second, because I think so many people have questions about makeup, and the trends are changing. The trends are changing. When I joined the chorus, we wore big hair. Everybody had big hair, I joined in 1969, and everybody kind of teased their hair then anyway. But these hairpiece things, they've been around for a long time, and people who are not in Sweet Adelines don't wear hair. I mean, if you look at the performers on television, very few of them have this beehive thing, this nest that sits right up there, and you have to carefully blend your hair in, and usually over a period of years it somehow changes color. And all of a sudden you find that it's not the same color it was when you bought it, or maybe your own hair color is not the same as when you bought it, perhaps. But the hairpiece, the situation right now, as it stands, is changing, and gratefully the judges have let go of hairpieces, and now it's okay to be your own hair and to perform in your own hair. I think that's a great stride forward, since a lot of us have depended a long time on these things. But there are certain things that the showmanship judge is looking for in makeup and grooming, and we've lumped it together, which kind of makes it less important when you lump it together, doesn't it? Makeup is, like yes or no. Yeah, you wear it, or no, you don't. It isn't that important. It's important to have it on, because you really need to be able to see all of your features under the intense lights. But the old ways of going around and with the green or the blue here, where you can see it from the back wall, it's changing, and I'm glad to see the change come, because for a long time we would look at the chorus, and what we would notice is the eyelid. And that's really not what we want to notice when you really think about it. What we want to notice is the eye. And so my chorus, again, experimental as it is, poor babies, they're just the guinea pigs for the organization, I guess. We're wearing brown eyeshadow. We're going to try it out. Well, we wore it regional, and it was fine. I mean, nobody even said anything. Really good. And we're wearing red costumes, so that makes makeup tricky, because if you put too much of a pink in your rouge, it just doesn't go with your costume. Red is a real hard color to make it happen on the lights. We have gone with a makeup that has a lot of browns in it. So our cheek color is actually made for a black person, it's a brown rouge. It's kind of a brick color. But it works well because what it does is it doesn't look red, it looks contoured. So you don't really notice, and these are all theatrical things. Those of you who are in theater know that, in theater, you don't put a little red dot or a strip of red here. You actually, shade in the contour of the face. There's also little things you can do. If you have a double chin like I do, I put a little bit of it right here. And that will also contour my face. So there's a lot of little makeup things that we're learning from the theater people, because they are in the illusion business and have been for a long, long time. And we're beginning to pay attention to why things work for them. So it's fashionable right now, trendy in the organization, to not depend so much on that green and that blue. Although, if you're wearing blue or you're wearing green, then I think it's most appropriate. Ambiance wears pewter. We wear gray on our eyes. It goes with everything. I mean, we found that gray goes with everything. And so it's a pewter color, and then we highlight in just a little bit of a silver, just a little bit of a white up top, so it goes from silver down to gray. And it's a dark charcoal, kind of a pewter color. And that works well. And that brings out our eyes. But it doesn't call attention to the lids. Grooming. Grooming is just, another makeup question?
Ask about false eyelashes. How important?
I think they're very important because, and I know that's not the answer you want to hear. Now, if you're wearing glasses, you'll never see your false eyelashes. And they're very difficult to put on. But they really do make a difference. And if you see a person who has eyelashes versus someone who doesn't have eyelashes, it's a subtle difference, but you really do notice. It gives the eye a much more defined look. And that's what you want, is a defined look. Always the black eyeliner, it's very important that it be seen. And we want to make the eye, and especially if your eye is one of your best features, you will want the audience to be able to enjoy your best features. And so you'll want to do whatever you can to bring out
What would be the best type to buy? It's hard to know.
a particular brand.
Well, short, long, I suppose you have to just.
It depends on what's comfortable for you. What you want to do is accentuate or, what's the word I'm looking for? I only had 4 hours sleep, I can't think of the word. You want to make a more defined eyelash. And your own eyelash, you can put layers and layers and layers on it, and it will help. It will make a difference. But if you can bring that out, if you can make it even more defined, that's going to be, frame, that's a good word, frame the eye. Thanks. I'll use that in my next class too. It's very important to bring out those features and point them up and make those your points of focus. You don't want the point of focus to be your eyelid, and yet we do that. And my own opinion, other judges will, it certainly doesn't create the best unit look, although, you'll notice unity isn't in the preparation part of it. Many of the courses are going now with wigs that look alike and things that look they look like little clones of each other. I personally enjoy the individuality of a chorus. I kind of find it very refreshing and very warm and human. And if it looks too artificial, I feel barriered out. I feel closed off. Like these aren't real people up here. These are all women who are looking alike in wigs. And it's real obvious to the audience that these people all have wigs on because they're all exactly alike. And we have courses but it does provide a unit look, but I think what you gain in unity, you lose in that audience rapport that is set up. And we need to remember that all the time. Ambiance certainly does not look alike. We don't even dress alike anymore. We're all such different body types, and we have, our costumes currently are the same. We have 2 different fabrics. We have a black sequin and we have a floral print. And we bought just yards of that stuff and said, okay, everybody go out and make some. And so we all have something different made out of those two things. Now, we can do that because we're not in a competitive situation, but if we were competing, we would definitely go with the same costume. But we are now at a point where we are bringing out our own individuality, and even though there is a thread of consistency, it doesn't clone us in. And it's more acceptable and more comfortable to a non-barbershop audience than to look like you come from the same ball team all the time. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the issue of wigs. Some courses find that using wigs is preferable to telling somebody they have ugly hair.
That's exactly right. And we have some women in our course that have the most beautiful hair. Why would we ever cover that up? You know, why would we do that?
What kind of standard criteria would we use for our course members so we can have some kind of guideline?
In the book. It's very clear. Elegant costume, elegant hair. Casual costume, casual hair. Period costume, or era costume fits the era with the hairdos, with the character development that you're bringing out. That doesn't mean all at the same length. That just means elegant if you're in an elegant costume. Our course is going to be, we have kind of a jazzy, sort of a flowy thing with the handkerchief skirt. And it's very contemporary. I have a very young chorus. I am blessed with a young chorus. I have two 13-year-olds, a 14-year-old, about 4 or 5 girls in high school, and then I have some college kids, and our average age is about 40, which is really low. We have other courses in our area that have the older member, but as a result, we have to keep them. And you start throwing wigs on a 14-year-old, and they aren't going to stay around very long. They even revolt with the makeup. You have to tell them, this is why we do this. You have to tell them why we're doing this. Otherwise, they feel that they look like clowns in this makeup. And it works. We had our dress rehearsal Thursday night, and it was interesting. The two 13-year-olds just, they just thought they looked horrible. And I told them they looked older, and that seemed to help, But it is, as we get younger members into our organization, we're not going to be as attractive to them if we tell them that they have this great hair that, is like, I have girls in my front row that have, Farrah Fawcett hair. It's just great. And I would not ever presume to want to have them cover up that gorgeous hair. The bigger the better, as far as I'm concerned. I want them to look their best. And in some cases, if your hair is one of your strong features, I would not ever presume to cover it up with a hairpiece or a wig. I really feel strongly about that, yes.
Anything about keeping it off the face or
Yes.
in the neck or anything?
Again, we don't want to create any barriers between the performer and the audience. And when you have hair that hangs down, it becomes a barrier. If you keep your hair, I've done mine away from my face today, but I don't always. Sometimes I just feather it back. But you want things to always be going up, and you want as much height as possible. The height does make a difference. Otherwise, you look very small. Your head looks small. You look sort of pinheaded. Well, you do. If you have an elegant costume on and very, very short hair, it detracts from the look of the elegance. Then a hairpiece or a wig is appropriate, right? To enhance the character development that you're trying to bring out, right? And we have to be sensitive to that all the time. Now, if you're going to wear pants, then that casual style will be fine, and it will almost detract from the look if it's too elegant. And then, the pants. It depends on the fabric. If it's satin, there's a lot more. Any other questions about makeup? Yes.
If they have very little hair or extremely fine hair that will not give them any height, then they probably
Yes.
should wear.
It's not their best feature then,
Yes.
obviously. And so what you want to do is always be enhancing what is your best and creating an illusion around what isn't. And so if your hair is thin or very, very short and you're going for an elegant look, you may want to enhance your features by wearing a hairpiece or a wig or a wiglet or anything that will add that height. Yeah, I don't want to ever, it's like, well, Sandi Wright said that it's okay not to wear hairpieces anymore. Well, that's not true if it isn't enhancing your best features. And that's what we want to do. And in some cases, the hairpiece is exactly what you need. And especially if you're going to wear something with a high collar and you're going to go turn of the century, then you definitely don't want a contemporary look, because a woman of the turn of the century would never wear short hair. They would have it swept up, and in that case you would definitely want a Gibson look or a hairpiece look. Mm-hmm.
Are you suggesting then that everyone has to have the same hairdo?
I'm suggesting that everyone does not have to have the same hairdo, but it has to be elegant if it's an elegant costume. I'll read it. I'll read exactly what it says. This book is really very interesting, Where the preparation part. Okay, here we are. Makeup and grooming. Okay, the part on hairstyles takes up exactly one paragraph. Okay, how much time do we spend in chorus on all this? Hairstyles change. Now this is directly from the judging category description booklet. Hairstyles change as frequently as fashions, and the contemporary hairstyle of any period is not necessarily compatible with stage appearance. The hairstyle chosen should enhance the costume. Casual hairstyle with casual dress, elegant hairstyle with formal dress, period hairstyle with period dress, etc. The hairstyle also functions as a means of framing the performer's faces through the use of height at the crown area. Uniform hairstyle for chorus or quartet members is not required. However, it presents an additional means of creating the unit look. Ta-da! Okay? You heard it right from the book. Yes?
Just before we leave here, I was wondering if hats are in or out.
Oh, well, hats are a great way to finish your look. And what happens when you're creating the look is that you want it to be as finished as possible. And what hats will do for you is also enhance your unit look. Are you wearing kind of a hat that goes with a particular...
It's kind of a bird of paradise thing on our head.
Yeah, well...
Then you come with this full hair, and then the girl...
It does several things. What it does is it gives a way to unify the hair, because it's in the same place on everybody. And so it provides the unity. Plus, it will bring the attention up to the eyes and usually will enhance that point of focus. What we don't want is a lot of stuff down at the base of our dress, or that you want a shoe color that's going to detract, because you don't want to do anything that's going to pull that point of focus down. You want everything to be up high, up at your face level. And so a hat does do a lot to create that look, or a little, frou-frou thing in the hair. We're wearing just a flower. It's just a red flower, very small. But on one side, we're pulling one side up on everybody and wearing a flower here. And it's very simple, but what it does is it will provide a unit effect, even though their hair is not going to be unit. And we are dressing more contemporary, so we didn't want an old-fashioned look. I don't want to get off too much on this, because there's so much audience report stuff that we want to get to, and it's just not that important. Okay? It just isn't. It's just not that important. We just get so hung up, and I think it's because it's something that we do every day. We fix our hair every day, we put makeup on every day, most of us, and it's something that we can relate to, but we have a hard time relating to how to stand and how to present ourselves, our music. And But it's just not that important in the overall scheme of things and look at the category. I mean, it's important, but it's just not where your focus ought to be. You know, just write it down and give it to your members and say, here, do this. And don't spend a lot of time talking about it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel that when they say you need a uniform look or a unity look, that they think that means the same.
I know. Yes, and what I'm saying is we want to create the illusion of unity without it being cloned. You know, some people have terrific eyes, and they don't have to put as much up there as other people who have very deep-set eyes who need to do something different to make their eyes pop out a little more. And we get hung up in this makeup class stuff where everybody has to put it on exactly the same, when in fact really what we ought to be is enhancing our best features and creating an illusion with those features that aren't so great. Okay? All right, let's get on with it, because this just isn't all that important. Creativity, that's just that is, you can tell if a chorus is creative or a quartet is creative. You can watch their performance and know that that was pretty innovative or that was pretty ordinary, and the overuse of literal translations, you know, heart and it's time and, you know, I. Not that bad, but sometimes it gets that bad. That shows a lack of creativity, and what we want to do is is set the scene, which is what we're going to do right now. You all have this handout, I think, that talks about kinesis. We're going back to the original here. Okay, I'm going to talk about this in just a few minutes. I probably won't need you to write anything yet. So if you want to go where you can see, or, I mean, you're welcome to sit there, it's fine.
Is anyone missing that handout?
Kinesis.
I'm a little confident, like you're shaking inside.
Oh my gosh!
Well, surely Christie.
That's all right, we haven't talked about it yet.
Okay. I'm missing it, okay, you guys.
I'm Shirley and I'm sorry.
Oh, we know
Okay. Okay, while she's passing that out, I will re-emphasize that vocal skills is number one. The salesmanship, the communication of a musical product is very important. You feel awkward and uncomfortable when a quartet is really having a problem up there, and you begin to get concerned about it. We've all sat through a performance where there were just an intense amount of nerves, and we just felt for every member of that group, and we were very concerned that they weren't even going to make it to the end. And you know, that's that audience. That's because we're human, and we want everybody to be good. And what you don't want is to create a situation where the audience gets concerned. And even if you're nervous, there are things that you can do with your body that will fool them. There really are. Politicians learn body language. Salesmen do, preachers do, teachers do. They learn that stuff in school. I give a lot of speeches in my job, and so I have had to learn body language. It starts with space. We are creatures of space. We respect our space. Before I would sit in this chair, I would probably go to Sharon and say, Sharon, is the seat taken? And she would say either no or yes, you know, if someone had been sitting there. We respect the space. Now, obviously, there is no one sitting there, yet our reaction is to ask permission to make sure that we are not invading anyone's space before we sit there. You will find, as the day goes on, that you will gravitate to the same spot in all your classes. It's a remarkable thing that we do. When we go back, we'll have a break and we'll go to another class, and we'll come back, and if it's in this room especially, we'll probably go right back to the same spot. Now, if we don't, we'll start for that spot. Someone might be in it, and you'll go, oh, someone's in my spot, and you'll go somewhere else. You know, it's just a thing that we have, that we are creatures of space. There is a certain spatial relationship that's very comfortable. Judy, stand up a second. I'm picking on Judy because she's on the end. If I come up to Judy and I'm standing like this and I'm talking to you, what would you really like to do right now?
Back up.
Yeah. I am grossly invading Judy's space. I'm standing like, okay, come out here. She's got a barrier. She does. She does have a barrier. She's holding her paper up. But psychologically, that was making this situation tolerable. Now, don't put a barrier up. Now, I'm going to come very close to you. Your reaction is going to be to back up, and you can go ahead and do that if you want. All right, now, if I come again, what happens?
Well, now I'm going to put my barrier up.
Yeah. The fight or flight starts. You know, this is, and you don't even think about it. You know, somebody comes up and stands in your face, and you back up, and you don't even think, that person's invading my space. That doesn't go through your mind. You just do it. You create a comfortable area. Stand it one more time. Now, when you backed up, you backed up to about this much. This is your comfort space then. You can even adjust it. And we do as we're talking. People who are very intimate with each other, husbands and wives especially, can stand a lot closer to each other and be comfortable with it. Friends who have been friends for a long time can whisper in each other. But see, Judy and I don't know each other well enough yet to create an intimacy of standing closer, and between close friends, your spatial relationship will close up as you get closer in relationship to that person. But if it's a true stranger and someone that you may even be apprehensive with, you may even be more comfortable with this amount of space. You know, shaking hands is a great thing, because what it does is allow us to actually create a wide spatial barrier, and it's a comfortable thing. And then we can either move in closer, or we can, you know, we can begin to create a relationship. Well, this happens with an audience and with a performer. If, for example, see, I work very close to my audience. I like that, because what I'm doing is creating a rapport just in a space. If we have the situation like in international, oh, it's so far. You're so far from the audience when you're performing. It's so tough to try to create that kind of a rapport spatially, because the judges are right up in front, but then there's nobody. You know, the average guy is just way back there, and you hesitate just playing to this table of 8 people all the time. You want to be able to look back. You have to get comfortable with that kind of space. But it's also important in a performance situation from the audience's perspective. I need 4 volunteers. I'm not going to ask you to sing. I'm just going to ask you to stand. You, and you. Okay? Come on up. That's good. I'm going to put you on the stage here. This is a quartet. And we're going to just take it from a quartet standpoint, although it works for choruses too, and if you want me to demonstrate it, I can, but it really does work for choruses.
You know each other?
Okay, when you look at this quartet performing as they are right now, psychologically something is happening. You're making a judgment about this group without them even having sung a note. Can you tell me what it is?
They sort of want to stick together.
They're what?
Them against us, sticking together.
They're them against us. That's a new one, but that's very good. That's very true. They're depending on each other. Insecure. Any others? Now, what happens, unfortunately, is in a lot of situations, especially in after roles, we have these microphones that are not very good, you know? And so what we do is we have this little, very directional microphone, you know, it's not picking up anybody unless you eat it. And so the quartet stands like this, you know, they're like this, singing, to be heard, but the impact that they're making from an audience perspective is insecure, it's them against us, it's frightened, and all of these things that psychologically we're making judgments about as an audience, because they are invading each other's space. And from from an audience perspective, this is an uncomfortable situation. Okay, now, this obviously is the extreme opposite. Now, tell me what you're feeling when we stand like this.
Don't they like each other?
All right? Their own compatibility is suffering. You're seeing individuals. What's happened to their unity? It's gone. And there is no unity. They look disorganized, I heard someone say. And all we've done is just stand there right now. We haven't sung a note. You haven't heard anything. But from a visual point, from that very first part of that poise and confidence, the command of the stage, they don't have it yet. Just because of how close they stand or how far apart they stand. The spacing is that important. It really is. And we don't talk about it much, but just standing this far apart creates the illusion that there's something not right about this picture. It's just not comfortable to watch. You have to take in every person one at a time. There's no sense of a whole here. There's just like 4 parts. All right, get comfortable. Just bunch up in a nice, comfortable way. All right, now this is an acceptable, would you not agree? Okay, we look comfortable here. And what they have done is they have created a comfort zone for each other. They are respecting each other's space, and yet they're close enough that they're beginning to have a rapport set up between not only themselves, but between the audience. It's making everybody much more comfortable to look at a group that performs like this. And so, don't ever discount the spacing part of it. It's very important that we're all spaced. Now, choruses can do the same thing. I oftentimes will see small choruses that try to look big by spreading out. And what that does is it gives you not a unit look. It pulls the unit away. You should stand in your normal space and be proud of it, and create the audience give the comfort level back to the audience. Okay? Great. Thank you very much. I might ask you to come up and demonstrate again in a minute, but unless I pick 4 other willing volunteers. Let's give them a hand. We're an audience.
Sandy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you encourage the quartets to stand in U or for, like, the end people face front?
Oh boy, is that a great question. Can I have my quartet back up here again? That's a good question. It depends on the song. Again, this is something that we have just recently discovered. Ambiance is experimenting with the use of 4 microphones on a pole. We don't feel that we want to hold them and sing like the Suntones. If some of you remember the Suntones. They were a barbershop quartet. They used to work the entire stage, and they each had their own handheld microphone. We still feel very strongly that it's this unit that we want, but what we need to do because of our space, and because quite often we don't get the miking that we need to make ambiance sound its best, we have purchased 4 microphones, and then we have them on poles in front of us, but we have them because barbershoppers sing on the curve. That's the accepted presentation. That's the way we present our music best. We have our microphones here, here, and here. Okay? Now, if we were singing more of a jazz song, we would, and we still prefer the curve for most of our music. But if you've ever watched Manhattan Transfer or the Nylons or some of the other more modern groups, they stand on the line. So just step right up here. They present like this. All right, so you've got the line, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, ambience tried that, and we lost our sound. we need to be able to blend better. So we prefer the curve because we need to relate to each other with the music that we're creating. If we were working with a backup orchestra or musicians back there, then we could relate to the musicians and we could sing on the straight. Now, when we do some of our music that is more contemporary, we may actually come up on the straight. And this again is just a style thing. It's more of a contemporary style. We don't have any bebop stuff in our repertoire right now, but if we did, we would sing this way, this way, this way, and straight. Lead singer on the end, 3. You know, doo-wop stuff, you know, like Motown stuff, okay? But it's just a presentation thing, you know, but again, you're setting up visually an acceptable way of standing. That's why how you stand and where you stand and your spatial relationship. Now, the 3 group can bunch up and be very comfortable looking to the audience because they're on the curve, but where's your point of focus? Right here on the lead singer. Because that's exactly what we're doing. We're setting up the point of focus right here. The energy's passed right to the end person. Yes?
Just a variation, when you're in the curve, are your 2 end people looking at each other or straight out?
Yes. Yeah, we interact a lot with each other on stage. And when a quartet does that, we feel that it strengthens our unit in that the audience is comfortable, that we're comfortable with each other. We don't spend a lot of time looking at each other. We cross, you know, we take half and, you know, we section it out. But go ahead and get on the curve. If you spend a lot of time looking at each other, you've again created a barrier. Whereas if you're more working the room, you know, you're working your section of the room, then you can create the audience rapport and quite effectively. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
If I were to deliver my speech like this, I'm smiling, I'm looking at the audience, and I'm making lots of eye contact, but somehow my presentation is just a little lacking in confidence. And if you will really think about it, call it out right now. I'm not stiff, I'm very relaxed, my knees are unlocked, my tummy is, you know, my derriere is tucked in.
You're stationary.
I'm immobile. And yet, how many of us perform like this? We perform with our hands to our sides. We're delivering the line, but somehow something is lacking here. Something is very wrong with this picture.
We talk with our hands. We use our bodies when we talk. And the animation with which we present is very important from a visual standpoint. And yet, we've been told, they said, to stand with your hands at your side and, you know, hang onto the hem of your skirt or tuck your thumbs in. I mean, you know, we've heard everything. But you have an area right here. It's sort of bordered by the belly button and goes up to the chest, and it's just right in this area where you can use this energy that you can create right here. It's just right here. And yet, where's my water? And yet, when we perform, if we perform with our hands down at our sides, it looks awkward. If we were talking and we had our hands down at our side, it looks awkward. It looks insecure, it looks scared, it looks nervous. Just to have your hands up, to have your elbows unlocked, just like we say when we unlock our knees. If we unlock, I'll get up here so you don't have to strain your neck. If we get loose, we look like we're having a whole lot more fun. Now I'm keeping my hands down, they're not really in the way. You probably, the whole time I've been up here talking to you, you've probably not even been aware that my hands have been accenting what I say. But I have been, because I talk with my hands a lot too. I keep them low. If I got out beyond my normal barrier here, then I begin to look frantic. And if I were talking to you like this, I would be conveying a certain mood that you would understand, because we learn from a very young age to read body language. Now, sometimes we need moves like this for emphasis. I can't understand why, that kind of a thing. A frantic move, a gesture that says hysteria. And sometimes we need those kinds of moves. But most of the time we need just a relaxed feeling. And I can change it. But I always want to keep something here. In presentation classes, and I've taken several classes because I do need to present a lot for a living, I'm going to come out here and use the microphone as a barrier for just a minute. Because I need to show you, this was good. I just want you to hear it without. There we go. I can stand like this. I can keep my hands down very low, and talk to you like this, and it looks very comfortable. It looks normal, and you're not at all drawn down here. Shouldn't be. We probably are now because we're talking about it. But in a normal situation, if you're singing and you keep your hands low and you keep your hands there for emphasis, it shouldn't be a point of distraction. In fact, it should make you look a little bit more comfortable from a stage perspective. Ambiance only puts its hands down for effect. There are times, most of the time we're singing like this. And when we put our hands down, it's because we're going into a mood. And then they come back up again. So using your hands is very important. There are lots of things that we can do just with our bodies that will give certain illusions. Stand up. And I want you to put your ankles together if you can. Some of us have a little harder time putting your feet together than others. Okay, now, I want you to feel what happens when your feet are very close together. Where are your arms at this point? Down and close. All right? If you put one arm out, you're going to list, or at least you're going to have to catch your balance and readjust things. Your center of gravity is pulled. And so you can't really, big moves don't cut it. This also is what happens when you get very nervous. Your ankles go together, your feet go together, your arms come in very close. You almost ape-like in appearance, in that apes have their hands kind of in front of their legs like this. The shoulders hunch forward, but that helps your center of gravity a little bit. Your head goes down in a submissive roll, because again, your center of gravity. If you put your head up, you will have to readjust and you may pull yourself back. So your head is down. This gives a very insecure look. It presents the illusion that you are not confident in what you're doing. And the first thing that I watch for in a quartet is their stance, their posture base. And I can tell what kind of illusion I'm going to get, usually because they haven't talked about it as being an illusion. It's actually the way they feel. They are nervous. When you're in a fight or flight situation, and for most of us competition is fight or flight, it's either like, let me out of here, or all right, I'm going to stand and fight this thing. You retreat in. Men, when they get nervous, cover their vital parts. They resort to the fig leaf position. They do it. You just watch. When a man is in front of an audience and he doesn't want to be there, he stands with his legs very close together. Now, women don't laugh because you do the same thing and you don't even realize it.
That's it.
The barriers are created. We begin to cover the parts that make a difference. We don't cross our hands like this, we do this. We do this. Okay? But what that is just a natural body reaction to cover up what we want to protect. It's very true. That's just goes back to caveman times. And so what we want to do is create a different kind of illusion. We don't want to show the whole world how we really feel. So we need to combat that a little bit by knowing how to stand and what to do with our hands so that we don't look like, we're holding on to ourselves. That's what we're doing. Men are too, but they're also covering. But women are just, they're holding a hand. It's like mommy's hand. Well, I must be okay. I feel I'm holding a hand. And so we clench when we're nervous. And, sometimes like this. Okay, now, when we put our feet way apart, we open ourselves up to a real vulnerability. It almost feels very awkward to be like this. Now, sometimes we need this kind of an action for effect. If we want a big open effect. When we have our feet way apart, spread way apart like this, and usually with our toes pointed out, that's usually the stance that we take when we are feeling domineering. We get this kind of a domineering look. The things that we do with our hands at this point are very big. We do big gestures it's just natural. Just try it. I want you to experiment with your own body because this is what you have to feel. You can put your hands very up. You can put your hands on your hips. You can take bold moves because you have your posture base such. Plus, your head goes back. Your back arches somewhat. And this is a very powerful, intimidating position. Now, if you were to take this position for very long, your audience would be intimidated. It will be uncomfortable for an audience to sit while you're, in lecture stance. Teachers learn how to do this. Do you learn this in school? They learn how to stand there like, between an eye. But it's important to know these things because sometimes we want them when we want to create that feeling in the song. That's the power stance. It's a great day for the Irish. The feet are apart. The shoulders are high. The head goes back. But for too long, and it will be intimidating because what you're doing is you're looking down your nose at the audience. And those little cliche, or the little words that we use to describe things, looking down your nose at someone, or that's actually conveys the feeling of arrogance and of power. And what we don't want is to be too powerful for too long, because that will intimidate. You'll tend to look like the Prussian army coming, that proud stance. Okay, what we want is a nice, comfortable stance. Either one foot in front, which is fine. That's kind of accepted chorus position. And it's that way for a reason, because you're centered. If your feet are right directly underneath your shoulders, it's a comfortable position. You can go either way. You can be big, you can be small. You have a place to go with your legs if you want to widen out your stance, or you can bring everything in if you're singing a very tender part of a song. And you may want to put your whole body into it. It's more than just the choreography. It's actually the body, the physical expression. That whole body move that you'll see sometimes on the score sheet. Okay, you've got your I was going in a certain direction and I lost my train of thought, so I'll just go on. The feet are shoulder length apart. Your hands are in a comfortable position that can go wide or can go in, whichever the mood calls for. Your head position can be up or it can be down. Now, the chin position is very important. You can sit for a second and you'll probably be able to see a little bit easier. People often ask us about ballads. Ballads are tricky because you don't want to get too grimacy on your face, but you want to give the illusion that you're nurturing. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. See how important the microphone is? It can really be a barrier. If I were delivering a ballad like this, you were a wonderful mother, what a friend, what a pal. Only now I can see, pal in a cradle days, or you often, some of you are familiar with that song. Only now I can see how you dreamed and you planned just for me. I'm looking straight ahead. I've got my head high. Watch what happens when I just lower my chin. You were a wonderful mother. What a friend, what a pal. Only now I can see how you dreamed and you planned just for me. All I did was lower my chin. And I immediately I didn't even do anything with my hands. The way you hold your body gives the clue to the audience of what's going on here. If you are singing above the audience, even if you're looking down your nose at the audience, the illusion is not nearly as effective as if you drop your chin. Isn't that weird? Isn't this strange stuff? We work also in where I was going before, and I lost my train of thought, was in gesture clusters. When we say choreography, the planned movement is there, but we also work in gesture clusters. We have a thing called emblems that we use a lot. Emblems are nonverbal actions that mean something almost on a universal basis. Okay? You knew that. I didn't have to tell you that. We can incorporate gestures, emblems into our choreography to create emphasis for what other things that our body is doing without it being a big major move. A hand on the hip is a gesture cluster. It's not just one gesture. It's the widening of the body. I'll do it this one. The widening of the body, the hand on the hip, the arching of the back, the head that goes up, the opening of everything. That's a cluster of gestures. It's not just one. And yet, when we choreograph things, we say, okay, everybody put their hands on their hips. That's what we get. But the cluster is much stronger. It's a whole body thing. And all of this stuff is, we watch television a lot. And if we just watch, if we turn the sound down sometime and just watch what people do on television, how the performers really perform without sound, we would see all of these things. It's really amazing. Anyway, they're the gesture clusters. Okay, we want a bold move, we want a nurturing move. We tilt our head down, we may reach forward, But when just reaching forward with our body straight doesn't give us the same kind of effect as reaching forward and tilting the head down. And my feet are fairly close together. Now, it wouldn't be as convincing, even if I had my chin down, if I didn't have the rest of it too. It would give a different impression. So, just observe. Get some books. There's lots of books on body language out there. And once you start reading it, it's just fascinating. You go, oh yeah, gosh, this is incredible. And I went, oh yeah, and you go, oh yeah? Talk like that, didn't we? But we dance like that. Isn't that weird? What we do. I'll swear. Oh, hands. Hands are neat. Boy, they're so expressive. I'm going to run out of time. I just know there's so much of this stuff that I want to get to. The thumb is the most not important, but it shows the most strength. The thumb shows the most strength. The index finger is next and goes down to the pinky. Pinky shows the least amount of strength. So that if you've got a bold move and you want to sweep, lead like this, thumb first, thumb out, hands open. If you want a gentle move, lead with the pinky. Isn't that amazing? But it's just because in our translation, in our reading of body language, we've been reading body language since we were babies. We just never had it explained. Nobody ever explained it. So here we are. We've got a big bold move, or you. That's threatening. If we want to do it that way, we can do you, and it's not nearly as threatening, or you. It's not, it doesn't mean the same. Even though my fingers are extended, this is a threatening move. And it makes you feel uncomfortable as an audience for too long. I mean, unless that's unless you want, you had your way. But I didn't just go, you had your way. I went, you. My body went apart, and my face went forward. I was going for it. The whole body went into it. That isn't enough. That just says fingers out in front. All right, stance wide. This is much more acceptable, and not acceptable. That wasn't the right word. It's less threatening. Okay, what else? Hands. Wrists that are limp get loose, and sometimes we need it. We use a lot of limp wrists when we do Fats Waller. We observed the musical, and the musical was extremely well choreographed. Amos behaved in the musical. And those girls stand with their legs way apart and their feet out, and they are bent at the waist, and they are loose, and that's how they do it. So we find it hard to bend at the waist and sing, so we keep our wrists limp. But limp wrists, as a rule, will create the illusion of being not strong. It lacks certain strength. So for the most part, in most of our choreography, we want a wrist with energy. And we talk a lot about, the peanut butter, and you guys all have your own stuff that you go through, molasses or Jell-O, or, how gross, But all we're really doing is keeping our wrists, and sometimes we'll want to lead with the wrist. Sometimes we want to lead with the pinky, depending on the feeling that we want. Now I need 4 volunteers again, because we're going to play with a ball. Any 4. You guys. That's why I volunteer people in my chorus. You, and you. Volunteer. Come on up here. Okay. Just space comfortably. I have a sheet of 2 lines of songs. The words that I'm going to give you is, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. Okay? Sell it, baby. Don't sing it, just say it. We're just delivering the lines. You know what we do when we sing? We have a 3-minute play that we're presenting. 2.5 minutes, 2-minute play. It's a little vignette that we're delivering to the audience. And in this 2 minutes, we have to convey all this emotion. We have to get an emotional reaction out of the audience. And we can't do it if we don't use all of our resources. If all we do is stand there and deliver the lines, it's pretty boring. And so an actor learns how to move. We're blocking the scene. We're going to block the scene. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. Okay, take it.
Do it as you
Sure thing. All right, ready? And if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. Okay. Well, they did some choreography up there. You know what happened here, though? We got a little insecurity. You know what happened? You looked in. Did you see her look in?
Just follow the leader.
She was looking for approval, and what it told us, we made a snap decision. She doesn't either know it or she's going to follow. She's not taking the charge here that it takes. Okay, that's okay. That was just a little thing, but we do that sometimes as groups. We'll look for approval. We do give them one of these. You ever heard the phrase shifty-eyed? That's where it comes from. It's sort of like you're not real sure what's going on, You're just kind of scanning the audience. We've seen people do that a lot. They're looking for approval. They're a little nervous, and they're not really focusing on anybody. And it makes the audience kind of nervous when you do that. So make some eye contact. Okay, if I were going to choreograph this to be you know, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. I would start in a comfortable position. If I can make it there, but that make it anywhere, I would want to emphasize that, because it's not just that I'm going to make it somewhere. I'm going to make it in New York, and that's the next line that's coming up. And you did a good thing, Carol. You spread those feet apart, and you gave us a real big, nice movement, but your hands didn't follow your body. You gave us a good start, and that was a good choreography move, and oftentimes that's exactly what the choreographer says. Spread that leg apart, you know, and that's the move. We're going to take a step to the side, outside foot, the side's one side, and the side's this side, and, you know, you have to be real specific. And then going, well, is it, you know, is it more than shoulder length, or is it, you know, we get all these questions. Oh, okay.
We've all been there.
Yeah, really, I know. It's universal, believe me. It happens everywhere. Okay, I love this 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock thing. You have clocks on your, you know, the big invisible clock, you know, put the hand at 10 o'clock or put it at 2 o'clock or something. I feel like Mickey Mouse after a while. Okay. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. I want you to actually take your hands, and throw those elbows out to the side. Now, it's not necessarily a hand on the hip, because I wouldn't say, I'll make it anywhere. That's an angry move. Or unless I did anywhere with my head to make it an affirmation, which I might want to do. But for this one, we're just going to say, if I can make it there, and the eyebrows are going to go up. If I can make it there, we're going to sort of tease it, and then we're going to spread our legs to the outside, and we're going to take both hands, because I've got the mic in one hand. Anyway. Okay? My hands are back. I'm going to open myself up to the audience. I'm going to give them a very open look. My head is going to be sort of visionary. In other words, I'm going to look at the crease in the ceiling. All right? Just take that much. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. All right, we're starting to get the hints. Not everybody's doing it exactly right. But here, I'm going to put the microphone down so I can demonstrate better.
She has the background.
If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. Now what that was a whole body move. Okay, well you can go and I'll just pull up 4 new people then. That's all right, that's great. We'll give everybody a chance. I think it's real neat to try these things. Fight or flight, they just flew. She reverted into a fetal position and, you know, we're on her. It's the whole body that really told the story. It wasn't the fact that we were taking a step to the side or putting our arms out. We were throwing our chest up, we were throwing our head up. We were giving the illusion that this was the most exciting thing that we were ever going to do in our whole lives. And it isn't enough to just go up steps. It doesn't have the same impact as, you know, the whole body is what's the thing. Okay, let's take you guys, you 4 right here. You come on up and do my next quartet.
Let's try.
They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah, the meanest gal in town. All right, those are the lines that you're going to deliver here in our small play, and we're going to block this scene in just a minute. But give me an impression, first of all, of how you would say this. They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah, the meanest gal in town. Take it. They call her hard-hearted Hannah. Say it with me. They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah, the meanest gal in town. All right, Bambi, are you hard-hearted Hannah? Okay, now see, that has to be decided upon ahead of time, because we don't know if we're talking about hard-hearted Hannah, or if we are her, she. It. Safe there, huh? Okay, I look to teacher all the time for help. We don't know where we're coming from in this character. First, before we deliver the line, of course, we would have to know whether we were hard-hearted Hannah or we were just talking about her. We want to be her. Okay, we have to have universal appeal here. Sure. Is that okay? We can be a vamp for a minute. All right. Okay. Vamps are great. Vamps are great to play because they are provocative. Provocative poses are real neat. You played it very well, Therese. The over-the-shoulder look. Now, what it was, though, was only an over-the-shoulder look. And many times we have these kinds of actions in our chorus, and that's just kind of an over-the-shoulder look, all right. You know, but a vamp sticks her knee out and sort of loosens her shoulder, and it's really more of a chest thing that comes out, you know. The shoulder's just sort of for emphasis, you know. Am I turning you on? You know, some days it works, some days it doesn't. Okay? All right, what we want is an over-the-shoulder look. They call her hard. They call her hard. All right, we're going to pose there. We're going to throw that front knee out just a little bit. And you've got it real good because that heel, that knee is going to be sort of out. So the heel has to be sort of in. We want an open look to the audience. We don't want an awkward look. This isn't as good as this. Okay. So we want sort of an S. We're going to make an S with our bodies a little bit here. All right. All right. Now we want to be able to move our shoulders, so our hands have got to be in a place where we can do that. Hand on hips is going to show more anger. We want provocative, so we're gonna do it that way. Yeah, right. This is more provocative. Actually, you know, this is more provocative than this or this. Isn't that interesting? And yet, sometimes we're not real specific with moves, you know, when we say get provocative. Just simple things like that, you know. But it does give a different verbal cue. All right, now all right, I've got my hand kind of straight down here. And my fingers are going to be sort of comfortable. They're not going to be completely together. And I've got my foot out, and I'm going to be able to move my shoulder a lot. Now, my head is not going to be forward. My head is going to be back, because I'm going to throw my chest out. All right? It just doesn't work today, you know? You got it? You got it? All right, now we need a little bit more space, because you're going to need to move that shoulder. Have you got it so that you can feel it going kind of an up? There you go. It's not just side to side. Provocative isn't side to side. Provocative is up. All right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, now we're getting it. All right. Now, are we on? Well, what we have to do is decide whether or not we're going to play it. Can we switch around? Is that going to throw your whole day off? Okay, that's good. All right. Yeah, all right. Now, we want it a little bit higher. So we want that chest to show. That's it. Yeah, okay. All right. Now, what I want you to do is roll your shoulders forward and then roll your shoulders back. All right, all right. Now, you can play this whole line just like this, just by using a shoulder thing. Go ahead. They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah. All right. Now, on Mina Scalaton, we may want to change that, and we want to maybe open into something else. But are you getting the picture here? All these clusters of gestures that are not just hand on hip, shoulder front, shoulder back. And that's what oftentimes we get. Choreographers in the room, please, you know, get a book on body language and teach your courses how to give it the whole thing, you know. A provocative woman doesn't have her head, well, sometimes they would have their head up if you wanted a more haughty look, you know. But I don't know, my tendency is to want to put my chin down a little bit and kind of look with those bedroom eyes, you know, that kind of a thing. Yes, question?
Made one of the quartet Hannah, would all of the quartet do the same moves?
No. if we were going to play this scene where we had Hannah and then we had the people who were singing the song about Hannah, then we would definitely block the scene differently. And let's do it. You be Hannah. I did that pretty well. All right, now, you all, oh, gosh, we're not going to ever get enough time to talk about energy. Maybe I can work it in a little bit. We have the awesome power of working energy into a performance. And we can pass energy to the person, any person in the quartet. And we have the power to hold energy right here. Don't go away, because I'll be right back with you. We're going to work this into what you're doing. All right, I'm standing like this, and I'm delivering a line. And the energy is just right here. Can you see it? And you can almost see it right there. Now, I can give the energy. I can make it be right there. It's still right there. You see that energy? It's still there. I can bring it down. I can bring it down with me by what I do with my head. Or I can leave it up there by what I do with my head. It's still up there. See it? I can bring it down. I can pass it to someone else in the group. I can bring it back in front of me. I can actually put my hands down and it'll still be there. I can bring my hands up and I can lose it just by doing this. Did you see that? If the energy is there, it's that importance of that preparatory move. We have these preparatory moves and then we have the final move. It's not enough to just put your hand out and then bring it down. You'll lose your energy. You have to bring it down so the energy stays right there. And you can bring it down fast. Okay, I've got my energy right up here. This energy is here. And I'm going to bring my hands down fast, but the energy is going to stay. Okay? Oh, it's so weird. All right, now, you're going to hold the energy. I'm giving the energy to Hannah. And these folks are going to pass her the energy. All right. However, you're going to hand it to the rest of them on the meanest gal in town. All right. Hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah, the meanest gal in town. You're going to turn. You're going to give the energy back to the group. All right. She's going to hold the energy because it's just right here. She's going to be the one. Now, you all are going to let her have the energy by just focusing your attention there and leaning sort of toward her. Now, you're not going to necessarily look at her, but you're going to just be leaning toward her, and that's going to pull the point of focus over to Hannah here. So just right now, lean toward her. All right, there's hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah. Now, when you go back, she's going to come around, the meanest gal in town. You're going to take the energy. It's going to spread out. Did you see that happen? They did it really well, too, for the first time. It's really amazing. If you observe ambiance, we pass the energy around a lot. We don't ever just drop our hands without doing one of these. I can pass it. I'm singing, and I've got the energy because maybe I've had a solo for a while, and I'm going to pass it to, Myrna? To Myrna. I'm going to give it to Myrna, but Myrna's got to take it. Myrna, when I give it to you, you just bring your hands up and take it, okay? All right, the energy is right over here because I've had the solo and I'm really feeling the music, and I'm going to pass it to Myrna. Who's going to take it?
Wow.
Now, I can do that without even looking at Myrna. Watch this. Okay, here it is. I've got the energy, and I'm going to pass it to Myrna. Yeah, I know. It's so awkward. That's neat. You guys, thank you very much. What's left on this sheet? Okay, we did tilt the head. All right, unity. Well, energy, we talked a little bit about. Energy is real important. And energy is real nebulous. People either have it or they don't. And it isn't always in what you, in the singing part of it, even though usually if it's in the singing, it's usually in the body. It's an interesting thing. We usually have energy in our bodies when we're doing energy with our vocals. Let's see, in choreography, that gets more into character development. If you're singing a song about a flapper, and you're wearing a flapper, and you've got the whole look, your flapper look from head to toe, you've got to be the flapper. Your whole body language has to say it. It's not enough just to do that kind of a move. The whole body has to be involved, and a flapper move is not just this. But, a lot of times that's what we do. But it's really elbows are higher, and it's a shoulder thing. You get, you get this little surprise look on your face, and pretty soon we at the head, we look really stupid. Flappers were pretty stupid back then. And see what I'm doing? I've got my knee back. I'm just giving a real stupid appearance, performance here. But if I were singing something like, give me a flapper song. Charleston. Okay, that's good. Charleston. I've got the look here. Charleston isn't as much. But that's an action, and if the whole chorus doesn't alike, you'll get unity points, but that whole body, this physical expression, voice and command part, it's just not the same as, the elbows are high, and you just kind of look, Oh, gosh. Likewise, if you're singing, how many minutes have I got? None. Right? It's lunchtime and everybody's starting, right?
We have to get our region's business done so she can hit the sentence.
Okay, that's fine. Just a little word about the director. Directors, don't upstage your courses because the audience wants to see your courses. And I'm glad I got a little bit of time to talk to you about that. There was a question, I know, somebody asked me back, and I don't remember what it was now. Somebody wanted me to talk about the kids that I have in the course. I can talk about that. Am I in another general membership class later?
Yes.
Okay. I'll talk about my young people in that class, because it is a very interesting phenomenon when you have young kids in your courses.
Do you want them to fill out that right brain, left brain?
Yes, I certainly do. We're going to talk about it this afternoon in the right yard continuum, in the vocal production. Stand up for a second. Let me give you a right brain, left brain exercise that you can tie back to your courses. Right brainers have an easier time performing than left brain. We got into that a little bit, but as you left brainers, some of you will discover that you really can give the illusion that you're very comfortable up there. It's very important to look as comfortable. You may not feel as comfortable, but you don't have to be confident to look confident. There's just a few things that you can do that will make you look confident. I mean, I only had 4 hours sleep last night, and I wasn't a whole lot of confidence coming into this room this morning, but you've all made me feel real confident just in the energy that you're giving back to me today. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. When we sing and when we dance, we're using both sides of the brain constantly. It's not emotion alone aside, nothing to do with emotion, just the physics of the brain and the makeup. Take this hand, it's your left, it's my right, and we're going to, on a 6 count, we're going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, all right? There's 6 of those, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right? You got that? No problem, all right? That one side of the brain's just really working on you. All right, this side, we're going to go up, and then side, and then down. Up, and then side, and then down, okay? All right, let's try that all alone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? started right, all right? Let's try it one hand at a time. And we're going to go a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right? Oh, there's only 6 of them. You don't have to go any further than that. And then the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you guys are perfect this way. All right, now, get concentration on now. Come on, you gotta concentrate, because this is going to take both sides of the brain focusing in. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.